Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host 𝙒𝙖𝙩𝙪. Today, Savio Rodrigues of the BJP joins me to talk about the role of the Indian Christian, how the Christianity has taken root in India, how it has survived, how it has changed and adapted itself to the changing conditions of the society, and so on. I can go on, but let's first welcome the guest of the evening, Savio Rodrigues. Prince Arihan, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar. Thank you. A pleasure to be once again on your channel, Shri.
The pleasure is all mine, Savio. Savio, most of us growing up, my generation, right? If somebody needed proper education, one chose a convent. No questions asked, right? I mean, and you learned about morality there, and you learned what is right, what is wrong, proper English, grammatically correct English, and you learned all the other things. Sports, for instance, Loyola in Chennai is a very well-known place for sports. So is I think Saint Bede's or something like that. Little Flower, Little Flower also is a Christian school. So this is in Hyderabad. VVS Lakshman's from there. Arshad Ayub came from there. So what I'm trying to say is these were considered the premier educational institutions. So people always regarded a Christian-run school as something that's very good for their children. And the fact that it was a Christian running the school never came in the way of making a decision for the parents. Has this changed recently? And is it for the better or for the worse? And how do you see the role of an Indian Christian in these troubled times?
Well, firstly, the most important aspect of an Indian Christian is that he's an Indian first and a Christian second. So today, an Indian Christian contributes to nation building in various different sectors, whether it is in the army, whether it's in politics, whether it's in business, whether it's in education, whether it's in healthcare. The Indian Christian contributes to it. It believes that India is its country, and it continues to serve India as its mother. There are, however, going to be exceptions to that belief system, because across religions, you are going to have that kind of exception where religion supersedes the nation. And in some cases, that happens in the Christian community as well. But by and large, most Indians are connected to India and they love India. The conflict that is arising in recent times is merely happening primarily because for a very long time in politics, BJP and the RSS has been positioned as a Hindu majority organization and a political party. By virtue of this, the Christian organizations, some of them have felt threatened, have felt under intimidation, and felt that the intent of some Christian organizations, in particular the evangelists, would get hampered with a Hindu majority organization and a political party. In the last 8 years, however, we have seen that the Indian government has not worked against the interest of the Christian community. Though there are many negative stories that have been planted by some sections of the media in India and some sections of the Western media that the minorities are in danger, let me give you a statistic. So there's an organization called the United Christian Forum, and in 2021, they did a study on the persecution of Christians in India. And they found 348 cases of atrocities against Christians in India. Now, for the same year, the Christian population in India is 3.12 crores. Now, 348 cases of atrocities or conflict that could happen in any part of the world. If you were to take around the same time and look at the FBI report on the hate crimes in the US, you would have found that 951 cases were against the Jewish community itself. If you look at the UK report, there were roughly about 1,600 cases and more against the Jewish community itself. Does that mean that the US and United Kingdom are both following the pathways of Hitler and targeting the Jews mercilessly in hate crimes? Absolutely not. And no media has reported this except the Goa Chronicle on the hypocrisy that some of the Western media actually writes about India. The Indian Christian, you have to distinguish between the people who are religious zealots vis-a-vis the Indian Christian who's a nation building individual. In all religions, you are going to find people who are religiously zealous about their religion. And proselytization is one of the ways in which they express their religious zealousness, right? And that is a problem. But you cannot label the Indian Christian who's working towards the nation building in the same bracket. Religious conversions is a reality in the country. Demonizing Hindus is a reality in this country. Demonizing the Hindu belief systems is a reality. And these are being done by certain individuals within the Christian community to ensure that people, in this case, Hindus, Muslims, sometimes Catholics from the same community, convert themselves to what is called as New Age Christianity, or evangelical Christianity, or believers Christianity. But that does not represent the Indian Christian sentiments to India. So today, for example, let me give you an example of the hate that one experiences. When I joined the BJP, I had relatives of my wife who actually told her that you should leave Savio and divorce him because he's joined the BJP. My wife and I sat down and laughed at the notion and the mentality of her extended family who could behave in such a manner. On my birthday, in my constituency, I wanted to feed the underprivileged in the 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝙪 constituency. So I went to a Christian organization and I asked him, listen, do you have any people who are underprivileged and who need to be served? Can I do that? And they turned around and told me that, hey, Savio, sorry, but you're a BJP politician now, so we cannot accept any sort of activity from your end, because it will look like the BJP is, making inroads in the Christian community. So I told her in a very amusing manner, this lady, this very enthusiastic Christian lady, that no problem. There are a lot of Hindus in 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝙪 constituency as well. Some are underprivileged. I will feed them as well. My intent is to feed everybody because they are underprivileged, and that's got nothing to do with religion. I came to you because somebody in my team recommended that they work with a lot of underprivileged people. The third instance was recently when we went to do a seed planting. And by nature, I wear my BJP t-shirt and the Transforming 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝙪 brand on my t-shirt, because that's our intent in the 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝙪 constituency. And one of these acting headmistresses of a school, when she saw that t-shirt of mine, she started to scold my youth member, saying that you should have told me this is BJP and BJP event, and you are saffronizing this whole country. If you had told me you were a Hindu, I would have not allowed you here. I thought you were a Christian. You see, this is hate, Shri. Hate coming out from certain people that has no objectivity, that has no facts, that has absolutely no premise of any relation to the reality on the ground as far as BJP is concerned, or far as any Indian is concerned. Today, India is a nation where a Christian, a Hindu, a Muslim, a Sikh, a Parsi, a Jew can live harmoniously together while they continue to profess and live their faith. The only time it becomes a problem is when you try to impose your faith on somebody else. So conversions are wrong. And I've said that on numerous platforms. Willful conversion is the right of every adult. Forced conversions, coerced conversions, the creation of a fear psychosis in the Christian community by some Christian leaders is not right. Because you might not like the BJP, you might hate the BJP, but you can't hate India, because India hasn't done you wrong. So your perceptions of BJP are your misinformation, right? So the most important thing is the losing of humanity in this religious conflict that India faces and the religious conflict that the world faces. Now, if you look at what's happening around the world, there is religious conflicts happening all over. But most of the religious conflicts happening around the world is Christianity and Islam, or Christianity with Christianity, or Islam with Islam. Sanatan Dharma ethics, Sanatan Dharma principles that originate out of Bharat is the beacon that can bring this world to what would be considered to be peace, Peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is the absence of violence, even though there might be a conflict that exists between communities. And the most important part for the Indian Christian is to realize that religion is important, religion is individual, religion is within your community. But religion can never be over and above your nationality. And why do I say that? Because when you travel around the world, people don't really care if you are a Christian or a Muslim. What they look at on your passport is whether you're an Indian, whether you're a citizen of the US, whether you're the citizen of Canada. Your passport doesn't carry your nationality, does it? So the most important aspect for us is the way you look at the Indian Christian community. And therefore, I have been endeavoring for the last several years to work with the Christian community, to speak to the church, even travel to Vatican, which I am doing in a short while, to talk to people within Vatican, the US evangelical groups, to tell them, listen, I'm an Indian Christian and I'm not threatened of living in India. This is my motherland. I'm responsible for my motherland. The fear psychosis that you are creating, the fear that you are spreading, the misinformation that you are spreading is not instilling confidence in the Indian Christians to live in India. That's why in places like Goa, you will have so many people wanting to opt for the Portuguese passport and go out of Goa and sit out of Goa and then decide what Goa should be. The most important aspect for the Indian Christian is to come and stay in India and make a difference. Today, in politics, whether it's IAS, whether it's IFS, whether it's the government, how many Christian representations are there? Even today in the parliament, there's very few Christian representation. The BJP isn't going anywhere for the next 20, 30 years. The people of India have put confidence in the BJP. The governance of the BJP has been accepted, which is why they are having victory after victory. So why should the Indian Christian community be set aside or be kept out by their own doings without understanding the merits or the demerits of what India requires at this point of time? Prime Minister Modi has not acted against the Christian community. Prime Minister Modi, in fact, is making more inroads with the Christian community, which is why today churches in Kerala are supporting the decision of the government to ban PFI. Because PFI terror organization and its radicalization, its impact was seen the most in Kerala. When the Kerala church came out and said, we are seeing cases, they reportedly 4,000 cases is the complaint of love jihad that they brought forward, where Islamic radicalized youth were targeting Christian girls for love jihad. So the Indian Christian has to wake up to the reality that this is our motherland. It is like I was telling a priest during the election. Now, I come from a constituency that has 78% Christians. And in all fairness, most of them did not want to vote for me because I stood on the BJP ticket. In fact, one of the priests who's now suddenly started to realize that Savio Rodrigues is not only about BJP, and BJP is not only about communal violence. It's mostly about development. It's about progress. He at that stage told me, son, it's sad that you've joined the BJP. You come from a very well-respected family, a very religious family, but your choice of the BJP is wrong. Whatever might be your decision, reasons for your decisions, please take a look at George Fernandez and how disillusioned he was by the end of it. And I told him, my father, with all due respect, I will show you what an Indian Christian can do in the BJP, working for the interest of the country. Because, assume, I told him, there is a room, there is a home where there are people deciding the future of this country. There are leaders, politicians, bureaucrats, industrialists who are sitting in that room deciding the future of this country. But the Christians are outside that home. And they are screaming and shouting and wanting to be heard. Listen to what we have to say. We have some issues with some extremist elements. We find some conflict in what some of the BJP policies are. hear us, but nobody can hear you. Do you know why they can't hear you? Because there is a soundproof glass and nobody from the Christian community is inside that room in the country that's taking a decision about the future of this country without understanding what is the Christian views on it. So by being conflicting with the government, by being conflicting with the intent of the government, the Christian community is not benefiting. If you remember, Archbishop Anil Kuto had, in 2018 made a statement saying Christians are in danger. And I asked him, I said, can you prove in what sense are Christians are in danger? If there are 200 people in a religious conflict, which could happen at any point of time, or 348, like the United Christian Forum said in 2021, does that mean 3.12 crore minus 348 Christians in India are in danger? It doesn't mean that. In fact, you have to look at every religious conflict on a case-to-case basis and then map the trend of what is happening, because conflicts happen all over the world. Today, the Indian Christian community is an educated community. It is a community that is reasonable. It's a community that spends a lot of time in building businesses, building their careers, not only in India, but internationally as well. Therefore, they become a very important stakeholder to the development and the nation building of India. And that is important. And more than the political, bickering that some within the community likes to fall on, or the WhatsApp university theories that they believe in, the fact of the matter is India is as good a nation and a mother to you, a Christian, as it is to a Hindu or to a Muslim or to a Sikh. So this negative thought process that some Catholic leaders work with and try to infuse into the Christian community for purely political reasons is wrong. If the BJP, and I told the Catholic priest as well, if the BJP is wrong in any aspects, which I don't think so far, then I will be the first person from the Christian community to stand up and point out the wrong of the BJP itself. Because the most important thing in this country today is secularism. And secularism is not the acceptance of all religion in matters of governance. It is the acceptance of no religion in matters of governance. So the government does not look at you and should not look at you in the eyes of religion or caste. It should look at you plainly and simply as a citizen of this country. And today, the Indian Christian is an important stakeholder in the nation-building process of India.
Question for you, Savio. Now, you mentioned things like WhatsApp University and discussion groups where the BJP is portrayed to be somebody who is very communal in its thought process and nature. Yet, one individual, Manohar Parrikar, he bridged the chasm. He was able to build bridges with the communities, various communities in Goa. How did he bring that about? Because I'm trying to see if there is a way that we can build on that and show people that, listen, everybody likes to have a good life, good growth, have good career for their children, a good future for their children. And this is sort of like the basic, thought process that everybody goes through.
Well, Mr. Parrikar was a very wise man. And I'm really honored and grateful to have learned a lot from him, and which is why I plan to take on whatever work he did for all the communities in Goa, in particular the Christian community, forward. The reason why Mr. Parrikar was appreciated during 2012 elections was because he was able to connect with the Christian community as an intellectual. He was somebody people within the Christian community saw as an intellectual who had a vision. Later on, certain political decisions that Mr. Parrikar made, which did not go well with the Catholic Church itself, led to the resentment of many within the Catholic Church against the BJP. The first resentment was that they were expecting that the deputy CM at that time, the late Francis D'Souza, would have become the chief minister, but that didn't happen. However, what is most important right now, and if you go by what has happened in the recent elections, you have seen that that considerable amount of Christian MLAs have become MLAs because there's been a support both from the Hindu groups as well as the Christian groups and the Muslim groups. So yes, in certain pockets like Salsette, you will still have problems in Goa. The Christian community in the Salsette region does have a strong angst against the BJP for what I see as religious color more than anything else. It's got nothing to do with the government because they take most of the benefits of the government. You know, in my constituency, for example, there are about 10,600 beneficiaries of government schemes, and out of that, 6,500 are from the Christian community. And these are schemes that was brought forward by the BJP government. I'm sure if there was any other government, they would have taken the schemes as well. But the point is, so the hate is predominantly religious indoctrination that has happened, and that hate is purely for BJP for reasons that they have not yet articulated or explained. All they do when we speak to them at numerous points is that no, BJP is communal, BJP is communal. It will take time for us because we're working on Mr. Parrikar's strategy to break that ice. And more importantly, it is important for us as Indian Christians to realize that what we say about India as a community reflects on India's standing globally as well. And a lot of the international media that have got a pre-agenda set to target India on the most vulnerable aspect of which it can be targeted, which is religious conflagrations. And that is exactly what they do time and again. It's about telling the world that the Christians are in danger. It's about telling the world that the Muslims are in danger. So the Indian Christian community must go beyond politics. It must go beyond religious divide. It must go beyond caste divides and realize that an Indian Christian is as and equally responsible for the growth of India, and they must participate with the current government in ensuring that India progresses and they are active in nation building. Sri, I can't hear you.
Gosh, my best part was all muted. What I said was take a glass of water because you've been speaking nonstop for 20 plus minutes. And it was a very nice exposition explaining what exactly you thought about how Christians can thrive in India. They have been thriving for a long time. I mean, the, the, the most important thing today, Savio, is the Christian in Goa is different from the Christian in South India, the ones that
Yes.
are neo-converts. And there is a real problem there, not only for the majority community, but also for the Christian community in the South. I'll tell you why. What is happening is there is now I'm trying to look for a word. Anyway, they're making a very, very concerted effort to try and grab control of the churches. And this is being done in a very surreptitious manner. And this is being done with a view for some individual or individuals to get a complete grab and then start using that to basically improve their own political standing, to be able to be somebody who can politically be powerful. So there is nothing to do with this, has got nothing to do with Christianity. This is what I'm trying to say. This is a power
Correct.
game. It's a power
Correct.
game, right? And in such cases, you have a problem in that the neo converts are probably not that well versed in Christianity, and therefore, what kind of a message do you think the Christians need to do to make sure? I have no problem with them converting. I mean, I'm basically against it, but having converted, let them be a true Christian. So look like there is some gap there, chasm there also. And how does one reconcile this? Because in the long term, the true Christians, the true devout Christians are going to suffer, in my opinion.
You see, the most important thing for us to understand about what's happening in India as far as conversions is concerned is who is responsible for the conversions. And if you really look at the recent years, in the last 10 to 20 years, the conversions have been driven by the evangelicals and the believers in India. Now, the Catholic Church itself does not actually accept the evangelicals and the believers and the actions that they have been doing as far as conversions are concerned, because 40% of the converts from the Roman Catholic beliefs to the believers' belief is the Catholics themselves, and the rest all are Hindus. So when you have
So they are
these
being poached from within also, is what you're saying,
yes,
from various
it's about
denominations.
40%. To the
Wow, that's a
best of
big
my knowledge,
number.
is about 40% of the Roman Catholics are actually moving to the evangelical and the believer sect. Now, one of the strategies that have always been adopted by the evangelicals, and I'm saying that because there are about 101 church planting organizations in India that we had reported in the Goa Chronicle about 4 years ago, 101, and their job is to look at the US, the UK, Germany, and other parts to raise money to do what? To plant churches in India, right? Now, why would a pastor like George Punya that we spoke about and Rahul Gandhi had met? What was George Punya's statements? George Punya's statements was hate against Hindu beliefs, against Hindu gods, against the government. That's hate. Pastors like George Punya and many like him, like there's another pastor called Lazarus, and the kind of statements that he's been making against Hindu beliefs, that is wrong. Because while it is acceptable that as an adult you can convert to any religion of your choice because you are an adult and the Indian Constitution allows you to do that, coercive, forced conversions cannot and must not be allowed, because you cannot under any circumstances demonize another religion, because the same constitution that gives you the right to profess your faith also gives the other religion person the right to defend his faith against all sorts of lies and misinformation that is propagated. The most important thing for the Indian Christian is to understand that whatever religion, and this is not only to the Christian, it's to all Indians, whatever religion you come from, your religion is not your identity. Your religion does not define your nationalism. It is your Indianness that defines your nationalism. It is your Indianness that defines your true identity on the global stage. And therefore, it is important for Catholic Church leaders, other Christian church leaders to understand that India is a progressing country. And Indian Christian has a lot of opportunity to excel in India by fear mongering, by brainwashing through fear, and sending the Indian Christian out of India. You are not helping the Indian Christian at all. An Indian Christian, like let's say, for example, in Goa, there were many Christians, then they moved out of Goa. What has happened to their land? Their land has been occupied by people, then they keep fighting, and it goes on for years and years. If you want to contribute to Goa, if you want to contribute to India, this is your motherland and you should contribute to it. Politics or political plays that happen by political parties to gain voter banks should not stop you from contributing to your motherland. Politics is a game that needs to be played and understood for what it is at face value. It does not define India. India is beyond any political party. India is beyond any politics. Therefore, as an Indian Christian, an Indian of Christian faith, it is your responsibility, it is your dharma to look after India, to build India, to contribute to India, not because you hate a political party. A political party could go wrong, and we've seen political parties in the past. Congress has gone wrong. There's likelihood that BJP could make some mistakes. But what is your role? Do you hate India because a person belongs to a political party or a particular religion? Therefore, it is important to understand that the Indian Christian as a society, as a faith and as an institution have been working in India for a very long time. And as you rightly said at the start, they have been very instrumental as far as education is concerned, as far as healthcare is concerned. And they need to continue to work in that manner without falling prey to polarizations happening in the country, intentionally or unintentionally. Because out of 3.12 crore, which is now roughly about 3.2 crore population in the Christian community, we need to stand up and be noticed for the work that we are doing towards nation building, and we should stand up and contribute towards nation building rather than getting sucked into the polarization game played with the intent of dividing India.
Yes, indeed. And it's a very powerful statement there, Savio. And now let us see if there are some questions for our guest. Can we have some questions, please? I forgot to tell to use hashtag Ask Savio, but many people are smart. You guys already make up your own hashtag. You know how it is with PGurus. It just makes the search a little bit easier for our editors. So I think there were a couple of questions, Savio. So let's just wait for a second so he can bring up the questions. Sure. Siddharth Jawar wants to know, why are they opposing the industrial units and ports? I think they're talking about Gudangulam and Sterlite and so on. Virinjam port, I guess.
There was a very noted report that came out, which was the Madhav Gadgil report on the Western Ghats. And during the RA Milk protests that were happening in Mumbai, a lot of the people within the church community were a part of the protests. Many people in the church community in Goa are part of protest in Goa as well in terms of the infrastructure development that's happening. It's very strange, but none of the church supported the Madhav Gadgil report, which was for the protection of the Western Ghats. So every organization in some form or the other uses the platform to spread misinformation to suit their own agenda. Now, when I started to investigate into why certain southern states were not standing for the Madhav Gadgil report, I realized that there were a lot of these tribals in those states in the Western Ghat areas that some of the evangelical groups and the Christian groups were working towards as far as taking Christianity to them and trying and attempting to convert them. So there were many of these churches built in those areas. So opposing the Western Ghats at that point of time was something that would not help them in their agenda of conversions. So every religious organization, as you're seeing with PFI, which portrayed itself as a Muslim organization, in all actuality, whilst the frontal aspects of it were social, the behind-the-scenes acts of the PFI were diabolical and not in the interest of the Indian Muslim at all. In fact, if you look at it, it was working against the interests of the Indian Muslims. Because of organizations like PFI, there becomes a doubt in many of the other communities in India, the Christians, the Hindus, the Sikhs, that maybe all Muslims are like the PFI, which is not true. Therefore, we need to understand that the church does, in certain sections, stand up for issues against the government, which are good, but in most cases they stand up against the government, which may have an agenda to it.
Next question, Santosh K wants to know, Savio, you are doing great work. What is the true intent of the people for starting the Joshua project?
Well, obviously, a lot of the evangelicals and the believers started the Joshua project with the intent of converting India into a Christian nation. That's the whole idea of proselytization. The idea of proselytization is to ensure the more people you get. The more people you get, even if you take by biblical definitions of a concept known as tithe, 10% of all the earnings that you give to a religious organization or a church. Now you compare that with the kind of money. It's a huge amount of money. If you look at Vatican's Peter Pence, I think in 2019 they put out some details. It was about 4 billion euros. and only 10% were used for charitable work of the Vatican. The remaining 90% was used for administration and for dealing with the financial deficit of the Vatican. So proselytization, besides faith, is also about an organization, about an institution. The Christian faith has got nothing to do with what you would say hate, but those who proselytize as a means for conversion have to rely on hate in order to draw people. So they rely on coercion, they rely on force, and they rely on allurements to get people to convert to their particular faith.
To add to that point, Santosh, many countries in the Southeast region have had a significant amount of conversion. Take South Korea, for example. It is 50% Christian now. Even the atheist China has 10% Christians. What I'm trying to say is Project Joshua was not targeted towards one country. They've done this thing fairly successfully over many countries. And it's just the fact that people are now beginning to realize that this is probably something that needs to be looked at. So there is change happening. I've talked to many Koreans. I don't know that they're Christian versus Buddhist. It's not so obvious. And I'm sure in many countries this happens, but we have to just see it for what it is and then keep moving forward. If somebody makes a considered decision to convert, hey, all power to you. It is just that when you are being induced to convert, that's where the problem starts. Next question from Maya Jagannathan. Savioji, very well put, that each one should contribute towards nation building rather than be sucked into factionalism. But how to stop this massive conversion game going on, especially in Tamil Nadu and Andhra?
Well, that's a good question. And the first way to stop any conversion is by information. Now, why does conversion happen and why do they target the underprivileged, especially the evangelical groups and the believers? And let me tell you that from their own psyche, because I've spoken to a couple of them who have converted. You see, the guy who's poor and he's looking at basics of life. So what does a basic human look at? And I mean, a man. He's looking for good education for his family. He's looking at a good job. He's looking at good health care. He's looking at a good source of revenue. When he doesn't find that happening outside in his current format with the government or in any form of getting what he wants, he turns to the next available option to them. So when an evangelist or a believer comes to him and tells him, these are what I'm going to offer you, in his need or her need, they opt for that as something that they choose. That's where the inducement, that's where the coercion, that's where the allurement comes in. Now, however, and this was something that's been happening for the last 70 odd years, now, however, what you've seen is that the Indian government is taking an active participation in ensuring that every community, including the tribals, including the poor of the poor, including people who would not have got what people in cities or tier 2, tier 3 cities get and in rural aspects get, to try and reach out to them so that they are economically stable. The need to convert other than God comes from an economic need. And what you really have is, you see, to the poor person, let's say tomorrow he needs $5,000 to survive, and I provide him with 5,000 rupees. I provide an education to his child, and I provide a job to him. To him, I would become God, right? So over the last so many years, this Garibi Hatao slogan that we've seen in this country has never really hataud any Garibi in reality. Which is why they've turned to the religious converters for want of education, healthcare, jobs, money. Today, a tribal child, like if you see some of these groups that are here, the evangelical groups, some of these kids get the opportunity to go abroad and study. In normal circumstances, they would not. These same kids who were previously Hindus themselves, young tribal girls and boys, they would have never had that kind of education. They get converted. They do their further education abroad, and then they come back into India to do further conversions. So in order to break that, besides the anti-conversion laws, which is meant across religion, it is important for the government, which we are doing, to reach out to every single Indian and uplift them from their economic crisis.
Next question. Maya Jagannathan says, Savio, your Goa Chronicles write-up, Why I Hate BJP was excellent in showing how the hatred for BJP Modi could easily translate to hatred for Hindus or for India. I think this is more of an observation of what you wrote, but perhaps you can, the headline is kind of a little bit misleading because the article, I've read that article. Maybe you can just share with our viewers why you chose that headline.
Because almost 70% of the people in my constituency that I have over a period of time spoken to from the Catholic community, and 70% of the Catholics I'm talking about, say that they hate BJP. I hate BJP. And I'll ask them why. There's no logical answer. All the answer is WhatsApp university information. And I find that ludicrous because you need to make an informed decision. I've never said that BJP is perfect, and I'm sure BJP as a political party will make mistakes, because eventually you don't expect everybody to be perfect or 100%. But if you can list down the problems of the BJP, and I will be able to convince you otherwise, or if there are some things that need to be addressed, then we need to address it collectively. There's no point in keeping the hate. Hating BJP, translating that hate like that headmistress, the acting headmistress told the Hindu youth girl from my mandal that, you should have told me that you were a Hindu first. If I didn't know, I would have never allowed you inside if I knew you were Hindu. That is hate. So I told that headmistress very categorically. I said, we came here with pure intent. However, you can't see the pure intent because you're blinded by the religious hate and bigotry you have in your glasses. So take out your glasses and see us for what we truly are, because we are Indians at the end of the day. We're humans. Religion does not define us. The humanity in us defines us.
That's a great statement. And viewers, that's about it for today. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. As you can see, Savio's inbox is lighting up. Savio, thank you so much. We took almost 45 minutes of your time, and it was wonderful sharing your thoughts with our viewers. And I think this is an ongoing process. And again, I think 8 years of rule of Modi government, many people are realizing, it's not as bad as being portrayed. Perhaps there is some exaggeration. Perhaps there's a lot of exaggeration. And so that realization is setting in now. Thank you once again, Savio. You are the tip of the spear. You're leading the community in a certain direction, and more power to you, bro. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Welcome.